Hello and welcome, Peri Posse. Today we have Mandi Dixon. She is a licensed professional counselor in the Dallas area, and she specializes in working with women in midlife. And that includes all of our listeners who are in perimenopause who are watching this. So, Mandi, welcome to the show, the podcast. Congratulations. Congratulations on being here. I don't know why I said that.
Thank
Brain
you.
fog. But please introduce yourself and tell us more about you.
Yeah, I'm Mandy. I'm a licensed professional counselor, like you said, and I have my own practice in Allen, and I work with women in midlife, and that's definitely during perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause, which is everything after. And then I also work with men sometimes, where women will have, just more of like a education kind of session, psychoeducation sometimes, just how to support their wives and maybe what she's going through. So I haven't had a lot of those sessions, but sometimes I'll have one pop up, and that's always fun to do something, a little different.
Oh, I love that you offer that as well. I'm sure a lot of people listening who have partners that they wish understood them would love for them to go to you.
Yeah, it's, you get some partners who are wonderful and open and they're willing to learn, but they just don't know what to do. They don't understand. And so it can be frustrating for a woman to, try and educate and, say how her partner can support her. And so I offer that. And then you get the other partners who are just kind of unwilling to see that side. And so that's where I work one-on-one with the women of, what they can say or how they can ask for support and get their needs kind of met.
That's wonderful. Well, in that, let's just dive into how do you suggest women talk to their partners about what they're going through with perimenopause, menopause?
Well, I think it can be really, really difficult, especially when women don't understand themselves what's going on. I think the number one thing that I hear from almost every woman is I just don't feel like myself. And
Yes.
and it's so incredibly hard to describe that, in terms but you know what it feels like. So and it can be especially hard with a spouse because they're often the ones that you snap at, that you can kind of unmask, I guess, around. And, whenever you are frustrated or snappy, and it can come out as that. So it can be really hard to explain that to spouses.
Yes, and I just want to normalize that feeling too. I've seen that in a lot of the groups I'm in, where women are talking about their spouses and they just find themselves so annoyed with their spouse all the time. And that's definitely happened to me too, where it's just like, oh my gosh, you're just everything you're doing is so annoying to me. Like how I cannot like every time you come and talk to me, I don't even care what you're saying. It's just so annoying. And that doesn't feel good to feel that way towards a partner. And
No.
what do you how do you help people deal with that? I'd like to know personally, and I'm sure other people listening have felt the same way.
Well, I had a woman, it was actually a woman that I was working out with the other day, her and her husband both, and we were just talking about the snappiness. She said that she feels it, and her husband was standing there, and she said, I felt it coming on, and he walked in the door, and I could just feel it coming, and he said, Hi, how's your day or something? And she said that she told him, look, I'm having a moment right now and I'm not feeling like myself. And so I just need you to get away. And he said, How can I help? And she said, Literally nothing you can do to help. I just need you to go. And so,
Yes.
I mean,
I can't stand your face right now, and I know it's not your
exactly.
fault.
So I think, that's a good, I don't think every couple is that direct with each other. And it would be great if they were. But I think if the woman herself can have the understanding and the insight to understand what's going on, to recognize those feelings, recognize if it's rage, if it's irritation, if it's sadness, whatever it is, understand that that's happening with her and that it's not a direct result or anything of whatever's about to come at her, whomever is about to come at her. And then be able to sort of communicate that, kind of like my friend did, where she said, here's how I'm feeling, and this is what I need from you. Go on. And then good for him for asking, what can I do to support you? And she said, just get away. That's what I need. And one thing the partners can understand is not to take it personal. It's not a personal attack on you or any of your abilities as the spouse. It's literally just what she needs in that moment. And so kind of recognizing those things before they turn into an event where she were to snap. And then sometimes, a spouse may snap back because some of that stuff can be hurtful. And, then that can kind of spiral into things. So I would say the biggest thing, if you can do, is just recognize it before it happens and ask for what you need. Ask for what you need.
Okay. So I'll back up then and let's get to the recognize it before it happens part. Let's talk about what is going on psychologically and physically during perimenopause that is causing all of this chaos emotionally.
Well, I know specifically I work with a lot of neurodivergent women. So autism, ADHD, and this can be so incredibly difficult for them when they enter this phase. I, there's so much of the dopamine is kind of dependent on the estrogen, and so in perimenopause our estrogen becomes very volatile, so it can go up, it can go down, and it can stay down, and then it can spike up, and it just sort of does this roller coaster. And our progesterone just has a steady decline, and so when your brain chemicals, that you depend on so much for executive functioning, such as, people that are neurodivergent, and they're directly impacted by those estrogen fluctuations. And so they can really struggle with things like emotional regulation and, the brain fog, that's pretty significant. Um, just really all of those executive functionings are impacted. I'm sorry, I've lost your question.
No,
When
that's okay. That's okay. The brain fog is a real thing. I mean,
yeah.
forgetting words is really, I mean, I said congratulations earlier and I meant to say welcome, so it's just like, but so the question was, and you already answered some of it is, what exactly is going on? So the biggest takeaway I'm getting from this and something I've noticed in myself too is the estrogen roller coaster
Oh,
really is impactful. I think for neurodivergent and
yeah.
neurotypical, I mean, it's really hard, and then neurodivergent even more impactful. And I've noticed that a lot in myself. I mean, I can feel where my estrogen is as a highly sensitive person. So I'm kind of on that, like I can feel everything that's going on in my body. But yeah, like today it's rising a little bit. So I've just been liking everyone in my family,
Feeling
but
better?
yesterday didn't like them as much as I do today. I mean, it's just day by day, and sometimes even moment by moment, where it's just maybe it's higher in the morning and it's lower in the evening, and I mean, it's just it feels crazy. Like you're just like, what the hell?
Yeah, it definitely does. And just to say something else about neurodivergence, I've just been really studying this a lot and talking with a lot of women. A lot of women aren't diagnosed until they reach this perimenopause stage because for so long they can kind of handle it. They can kind of put that mask on. They may
Mm-hmm.
know that, they can go out in crowds and that they can handle it, but then when they get home, they can kind of be themselves. And that's just sort of how they function. And then when they hit perimenopause, it's like that ability to do those things, it's just not there anymore. And it can just feel so incredibly difficult. ADHD and women that may have, autism and they don't know it. And everything is very, very difficult. And a lot of them can sort of withdraw. They don't understand why they can't do those things that they used to do. But it's very helpful to sort of understand what's going on, in yourself, And so then you can be able to sort of advocate for yourself, ask for what you need in terms of, you know, interactions with other people, especially things in the work environment, your relationships, just your care, all of those things. But it's not uncommon for women to be diagnosed in this stage of life. It's not that they suddenly develop it. It's maybe they've always had it. They just didn't know it because they could always cope with it.
That's absolutely true. That's been my
Yeah.
experience as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many women.
Yes. Yes. Because it's just what I've noticed for myself and is that at the at the time where we want to be the most highly functioning, like I have a 11-year-old daughter, so I'm in second puberty and she's in first puberty. And she's going through hard times. I want to be able to support her, but we've synced up now. So like we're both our moods are both low and high at the same time, so we can that is a way of supporting each other. But there's this time where you have if you have kids, they're usually at a time when they really need you. You want to be the at the highest level in career, and all of these things require this really high level of functioning, and we don't have it anymore like we used to, and that's really hard. And just thinking of like midlife crisis, that term and everything, I think that that can show up during this time, because then you start questioning, well, who am I, and am I just the things that I can do? What's deeper than that? And really having to lean into self-compassion
Oh
and
yeah.
just
Yeah.
like I forget words now, like my it's I'm and part of my identity personally is like I'm really good with words. I always had really high verbal scores, so then just whatever it is about you that you really valued or something that you're not able to do anymore as well, being able to have compassion for that is really challenging.
It is very challenging. I know with myself, I've always been very, very snappy with my thoughts and my conversations. Never really write anything down. I can always keep it up here, especially in therapy sessions. I can, remember the name of your dog that passed away 5 years ago. Just like I can just I don't know. I've noticed lately that that isn't quite as sharp as it used to be, and it really bothers me a lot. And I know, that I would say in my job, and probably, as a counselor yourself, you don't have a lot of, what am I thinking of, multitasking going on. It's pretty laser focused on one
Mm-hmm.
thing. And so we're lucky in that, but it is frustrating for me whenever I can't remember the same way that I used to be able to. And so I think about women who are in careers where they have a bunch of things coming at them and they are multitasking. And that is one of the first things that really, you can struggle with. And just it impacts your self-confidence. And like you said, your just the sense of who you are and how you've identified yourself, and a lot of women can really struggle with that.
Yeah, yeah, and then I think we hit this wall of being able to have to love ourselves just for who we are versus what we do, which is really difficult because our whole culture is about what you do being what defines you, and what can you produce, so then you get this existential thing going on where you're like having to we're having to be able to see our worthiness in who we are, because we're not able to do so much what we used to do. And being able to accept that, I think that's part of the crisis of midlife for us as well.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I love doing that really deep work of getting to kind of those core beliefs, and a lot of times you'll see things like I'm either too much or I'm not enough,
Mm,
as those, core beliefs, and just really getting deep down in there and working to sort of I am enough, I am enough no matter what. Yeah.
yeah. No matter if I'm snappy and not always, and not and as women especially, right? We're and maybe even more Southern women particularly, but we are really highly socialized for others' comfort. and to be cheery and bright and pleasant to be around. And I don't know about you, but I'm not feeling as pleasant as I used to be. And I'm not willing to mask like I used to and make everybody else comfortable because I just don't have enough estrogen for that anymore. and it's all over the place. And sometimes when it's really high, that doesn't help me either. So I think that there's that too. And if here I am not making others comfortable, yet I'm still worthy and I'm not too much. I'm
Exactly.
just enough, as Goldilocks figured out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I love working with women like that just to really help them understand that their value in this world isn't dependent on what they can do or what they can do for other people. It's, they're worthy just how they are.
So, for those of us who our lives have been wrapped around how other people are doing and caring for others, the task is that you're putting out is to be able to ask ourselves, how am I feeling and what do I need? So, what kind of first steps do you suggest to women who don't really know how to figure that out because we're so used to being able to assess how other people are feeling and what they need?
Yeah, that can be really difficult, especially when it's something that, you're not used to doing, and so many women aren't. Um, there's there's a few things that I really try and focus on, and I try and keep it very simple just in the beginning because and this is something that everybody, no matter what, can really focus on. One is sleep, because you really cannot
Mm,
function at your best or feel your best if you're not sleeping. And sleep is often compromised during perimenopause. A lot of women, you have that 2, 3 a.m. wake up where you can't go back to sleep. That's pretty common. And so
hmm.
if that's happening frequently, then you just can't expect to function your best the following day, and you can't expect to feel your best. And so really focusing on the sleep, and whether that's talking with a doctor about your sleep. I know progesterone can be really effective for women that struggle with that. Some women are progesterone intolerant, and so there's other options like magnesium and even melatonin, different things. So I would say look at your sleep. If that's impacted, you need to try and take care of that, because all the other stuff isn't going to make sense if you're not sleeping.
Yeah.
Yeah, so sleep is important, and there's a lot of, sleep hygiene things that you can do, turning off your electronics, making sure it's really cool in your room, because a lot of women have night sweats, which can wake you up, which can impact your sleep. So lots of things that you can focus on with sleep hygiene, making sure you're getting at least 8 hours. And if that, and a lot of times that goes back to sort of setting boundaries, you know, maybe your kid and you, or your husband and you, or your partner have a favorite show that you watch, but you have to get up early the next day, and that's going to impact your 8 hours. And it's kind of, being able to say, I love you and I want to spend time with you, but I have to prioritize my sleep, which means I really need to go to bed at this time. So we're going to have to do this at another time, something like that.
Hmm.
So sleep, I would say focus on that. And then eating, making sure that you're eating, because sometimes we don't eat, sometimes we eat the wrong things. So nutrients, protein is so important for brain function, just to be able to perform at our best. And protein is, I feel like everyone talks about protein, eat the protein. But I don't know. I myself, I don't track it, I don't count it, but I'm conscious of it. I try and choose things that have protein in them because I know that they make me feel better.
Okay. Yes. And I've read that women who are in perimenopause need more protein.
Mhm.
Does that have anything to do with testosterone? Do you know? Because I know testosterone also is tanks. So you have progesterone lowering, testosterone lowering, and estrogen all over the place. Um, I don't know. I just wondered if you knew because I
I
Do
don't
you know?
know if it impacts the testosterone. I know that protein is really important because you start losing muscles, your muscle tone and your muscle mass as we start to get older. That is estrogen receptors in our muscles. And so when our estrogen decreases, so does our muscles. And so by eating protein, that helps us maintain that muscle mass.
Oh,
And
okay. That makes sense.
yeah. And I know that protein is also important for our brain functioning too. And so if that's, already a little compromised with the hormones, it's just important. So
Okay.
I don't know
So,
about the testosterone.
okay. That may be just bogus. I may have been connecting that with exercise and muscles, testosterone. So I
Yeah,
could
well,
have been.
I don't know a whole lot about testosterone. I know there's a lot of new research sort of that's coming out with that. But I know that it's vital to our overall functioning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So
okay. So sleep, eating more protein. Any other recommendations with nutrition around for perimenopause?
I am definitely not a nutritionist, and
Yeah.
eating habits are not the best either. I'll tell you that. But just try and keep it as simple as you can. Like I said, like just be conscious of protein. And obviously, you can take all of this up a notch. You can talk with a nutritionist, and they can really tell you what you need during perimenopause. When I'm starting out with women, I just try and keep it simple because sleeping 8 hours, eating, focus on the protein. Make sure some women will go all day and not eat any protein. So, anything is better than none. So focus on
Yeah.
that. Obviously, the nutrient dense foods like fruits and vegetables and whole grains and things like that, they're just going to make you overall feel better. So if you're eating nothing all day and then eating a bunch of junk at night, obviously you're not going to be able to be your best the next day. So it's kind of just being conscious of those simple changes that you can do. And then the third one is moving your body. If that's just taking a walk around the block, if that's, walking up and down your stairs a few times a day, anything is better than nothing. And it really does help. I'll tell you, one of the best tips that I have found with myself and women that I work with is walking. And it sounds simple, but if you know the science to it, that bilateral stimulation that you get just from walking, it just helps release so much, whether it's anxiety or rage or stress or whatever, just a walk. And if you can, the longer you can go, the better. But if it's a short walk, then that helps too. And I think just doing that in some way every day is wonderful.
Yes. And if you can walk outside, all the
Oh,
better.
oh yeah, it's great.
Yeah. I'm addicted to my elliptical machine, and it is the bilateral rhythmic movement. It really helps regulate my nervous system.
Yeah, there's nothing better. It is amazing.
Yeah. I guess swimming would do that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
It being summer, maybe if you can get out and swim too, that'd be great.
Yeah, and outside is so great just as far as like being grounded. You get, to see the sky and feel the sun and the breeze and the sounds and the smells, and it's all very relaxing.
Yeah. Just talking about it makes me feel good. I'm like, I need to go hug a tree.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Your feet in the grass, that helps too.
It does. And the grounding, the electrical grounding of your body to the earth. I mean,
Yeah,
that's what we're meant to be connected to the earth. So we just spend too much time with concrete and screens. So
yeah,
as we both are right now, but get outside, listeners. Um, what was I going to ask next?
yeah.
I had a question and it just left me. Oh, okay, now I remember it. Okay, so brain fog. Let's talk about just some of the things that you see so we can just normalize what people are experiencing. What do you see as common things that women are experiencing that you work with who are in perimenopause, menopause?
I would say the most common thing is the walking into a room and forgetting what you walked in there for.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that happens frequently to just about every woman that I've spoken to. The forgetting the words, that's pretty common too, and that happens. And I see there was one other one. Oh, this is something that I struggle with sometimes. I will get my phone, open my phone because there's something that like I need to do, and there'll be a notification, there'll be something, and I'll check it, and then you have that feeling of like, what did I pick my phone up for? And I literally cannot remember the reason that I picked the phone up in the first place. And so, it's gone.
Yep.
Have
I
to wait
I
for it to come back.
I recognize all of those things. That definitely happens to me too.
Mhm.
I've noticed that I also have had a lot more vivid dreams. Do you hear
Okay.
that?
I haven't really heard that, but I mean, I can imagine.
Yeah, I think there's just it seems like there's so much more to process from the emotions going up and down and trying to
Uh-huh.
just kind of figure this stage of life out that my brain is just still working in the middle of the night too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it wake you up or you're just kind of conscious of it when you wake up?
Sometimes I'll dream like I dreamt that there was a cricket that jumped on my neck and I woke up with a start like and I actually like felt it for a minute and then I had to be
Oh,
like, you're
wow.
in your bed, you're safe, there's no crickets in here. But yes, I mean really, and I remember having these kinds of dreams when I was a teenager and going through puberty. And
Wow.
so I wonder if it has something to do with hormonal fluctuations for some people, because I just remember having those vivid dreams where you can feel what's happening and wake up thinking that very disoriented and stuff like that. So, and that might be some of the cortisol surges happening at 3 a.m., too, which is you talked about that 3 a.m. wake up. And I think cortisol is definitely something we can mention because that goes all over the place too.
Yeah.
And I noticed that I went recently, I know I talked to you about it, went through a period where my hormones were just completely off because I had tried testosterone. It did not work for me, really did not work for me. And I was having these crazy cortisol surges. And it took like between 4 and 6 weeks to really get it regulated, and got off the testosterone, got regulated again. But that can happen as well. And not just because of using hormone replacement that doesn't work for you, but just from the hormones being all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely. And something else that can spike your cortisol, and I just learned about this a few weeks ago. I was talking with a women's health nurse practitioner who does a lot of functional medicine too. She was well, we were talking about eating, eating nutritious foods. And she said a lot of women don't eat enough during this time of life. And when you're sleeping, that cortisol spikes when your blood sugar drops. So,
Mm.
and it's a natural thing that our body does. It's a hunger signal telling us to wake up and eat, kind of, a primitive thing. And so
Oh,
cortisol spikes, it wakes us up telling us to eat because our blood sugar is low. And so it's just kind of going backwards. Make sure that you're eating good, nutritious food, high protein, and that can in turn keep your blood sugar from dropping and raising your cortisol in your sleep.
okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And I've noticed that I used to be able to in the morning I can't drink coffee anymore. Now I drink green tea. But I used to be able to have tons of caffeine in the morning and just be totally fine. But now it makes me super jittery. So that makes sense. I mean, my blood sugar is probably not stable because I haven't eaten. I'm drinking a bunch of caffeine and I just can't do that anymore. So again, things that we used to be able to do in our 20s, 30s, early 40s, not working now. So you have to pay
Yeah,
more attention.
that is so common too. You really have to, you think that, well, I've always done this, and you get frustrated at the fact that why can't I do this? Why I used to be able to do this, but really it's just about letting that go and looking at what you can do and how maybe you can do it differently moving forward. It's not so much of why can't I, but more like how can I?
Yeah. And for those of us who are autistic and don't like change, the how can I do it differently is hard. That is hard. And not even people who are autistic, but just people not liking change. Change is hard for everybody, I think. So it's
Definitely
just, yeah,
hard.
being able to accept, like, I can't do it that way anymore.
Yeah, yeah. It's it really is, and it can be a period of grief. You know, you can kind of grieve the fact. I know with myself, I told you earlier about like my memory and how I never wrote anything down, and it almost became, I mean, it was a little bit of a problem because I would go through classes in college and not write anything down, and I was fine. And I never got into the habit of learning to write things down. So I just depended on my memory because it was always there. And now I'm finding myself having to write things down. And it kind of pisses me off a little bit
Yes.
because I'm why do I have to write this down? But I have to understand like my mind and my brain, it's not anything with me. It's just now I need to write things down because these things are important and they're important to remember. And writing things down, there's nothing wrong with it. I just really have to get into the habit and really making myself do it in that moment where taking 5 seconds to do it and not put it off because it's so important. And sometimes I don't need it, you know, and then I'm like, yeah, well, I wrote that down and I can remember. But there are other times when I'm so thankful that I wrote something down because it kind of, I think of my brain, I'm just reducing the things that need to go in it, right? So if I write this down, it doesn't need to go in here. I can have room for other things that I want to put in there. And so that's sort of how I've reframed it. I'm just giving my brain some extra room to hold things that I want it to hold. And so I'm going to write this down on paper so I don't have to put it in there.
Yeah, I love that. And it's just that idea of just being more gentle with ourselves and not expecting ourselves to be able to hold so much. Being kind to your brain. Okay, I'm not going to expect you to hold. If you do, if you're able to, great. But if you don't, I've got your back here, my own
Yeah.
back, and I'm going to write this down. And I used to never take notes during sessions either, and now I do. And now now I have to do all this extra massages and stretching for the one arm and neck from writing. So it's like my body wasn't used to doing that, to writing so much, so then something has changed and you have to adjust along with it. And that's another thing too, is our body's changing. I've noticed that I have to do a lot more stretching than I ever used to have to do. I spend a lot of time stretching. When I used to, I mean, I used to work out and not stretch at all, which I know is terrible, but it was fine. But you can't do
Yeah.
that anymore.
Stretching is so great. Yeah. I'm a big lover of stretching too.
Yes, I've become one. I wasn't at first. Again, change. But now I love yin yoga specifically because it's very meditative. And I'm not very good with meditating, just sitting there meditating because my body likes to move. But yin yoga, you're moving, holding poses, but it's also meditative because you're doing it for a long time and focusing on your body and your breath and all of that kind of stuff.
That's amazing. I'm gonna have to write that down.
Yeah.
I've never heard
Yeah.
that.
I just find it online on YouTube. There's so many good videos.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it's it's so much. I think if women can just take a moment to kind of give themselves space and time to grieve whatever they need to grieve, whether it's, you know, not stretching or not having to write things down, or maybe being able to go all day at, a kid's event and, be able to do those things that involve lots of people and lots of energy and lots of time. Kind of grieve that if that's what you need to do, and then focus on all the things that you still can do. But it just may look different, but you can still do them. You just have to find a way that works for you because there's nothing that you can't do anymore. I don't think. You just have to find kind of a different way to do it if that's what you want to do.
I love that you brought up grief. I think that that's definitely an emotion that we're feeling, that we're maybe recognizing or not recognizing, that there is a level of grief and going through the stages of grief, getting to the acceptance level, but it takes some time. And then that's when the anger comes in, that being a stage of grief, right? Of just being, like you said earlier, I was pissed off, I couldn't do this, I mean,
Yeah.
anger, feeling more anger, because also when estrogen is lower at those times when it really tanks, that feeling of anger can really come up strong. And a lot of us, being again socialized female, are not supposed to be feeling anger, uncomfortable with anger. Like I have pushed down anger or masked anger in the past, but you don't have enough estrogen to safely shove it down anymore. And here it is,
It comes.
and
Yep.
you're angry. And everything that your spouse does or your child does, or like the way people smell, just pisses you off. Stop breathing like that, you know?
You know, it's so funny. I made a TikTok account just to kind of, share things, and it's been kind of fun. It kind of fuels my creativity, making the videos and stuff. But I made one maybe a week ago or a couple of weeks ago, but it said, you know, here's my unpopular opinion as a therapist for women. It's okay to be furious. And
Yes.
the response blew me away. I mean, all of the women. And it was this, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And it just made me so happy. You just never know what's gonna resonate. But I couldn't believe the response and just the overwhelming gratitude that women needed to hear that it's okay to be furious. You can't really move through those other phases of emotions if you don't feel that rage or that grief or, that fury, because it can definitely be there. And a lot of women, like you said, aren't taught that it's okay to feel that.
Yes, and it can feel dangerous. I love that you put that out there, and it's so great to see the reception. It just shows that we all need to hear that. So we're going to tell you that again right now. It's okay to be furious. It's okay to feel
Okay.
rage.
Exactly. Just don't hurt yourself, don't hurt anybody else, and don't hurt anything. That's what I tell my kids. Like, you can be mad, don't hurt yourself, don't hurt anybody else, and don't hurt anything. But
Yep.
whatever else you got to do, get it out.
If you have to scream, scream. Primal scream therapy.
Yeah, exactly.
The some of the therapists in the 70s really had something going with that.
There's a healing pattern to it. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
For
it
me, it,
is.
for me, it's the rage walks. I like to put on like heavy metal music in my ears as loud as it'll go and just walk and just, I don't know, I can just feel it move through my body and it all comes out. And that feels so
Yes.
much better.
I like it. A rage walk. Take your
Yeah.
rage walk.
One woman said it was in the comments that rage gardening. She just gets out there in her
She's
garden,
hoeing.
just goes at it. Yeah, this is fantastic. Like, there's so many healthy ways to get it out.
Yes. I remember, do you remember when racquetball used to be popular? I used to play rage racquetball. I don't actually know how to play racquetball, but I would just go in a racquetball court and like hit that racquetball. But yeah, I mean, anything that you can just get it out, let it move through your body. You don't have to stuff it down.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
I think that really helps what you're saying with being able to identify the emotions is first saying that any emotion you're feeling is okay. It's the actions. You have to be careful about what actions you take with them. Take healthy actions, but just recognizing, like your example of the woman at the gym that was telling her husband to leave, not throwing something in his face and saying, I need you to leave, but like, I need you to leave and I'm going to go take a rage walk. Yeah.
exactly. And she
Because,
was kind of asking me, like, almost like, was that okay what I did? And, she's like, I don't know what the rage was about. I just knew that, it was coming. And I was like, no, that is so great that you recognized it, because had you not, if you would have just shoved that down and been like, hi, how are you? It would have come out. It was ready, it was there, and you would have snapped at him, or you would have shoved it down, smiled, okay, let's go do this. And it would have come out at some other time. So it was so great if you can recognize what you're feeling when you're feeling it and then ask for what you need.
yeah. So figure out what you need to do for yourself to regulate and what someone else can do to support you as he so wonderfully asked.
I know, I love those. I love those too.
Yeah, and if they don't ask, then you just tell them what they can do to support you.
Exactly. That works too.
Yeah.
Sometimes you need to know.
Well, so Mandy, where can people find you if they would like to work with you or they want to see what they want to see any more amazing TikToks that you make or just be able to reach out to you for help with this?
Yeah, so you can find me on my website. It's Mandi Dixon, that's MandiDixon, LPC.com. There's links to the social media on the website, but on Instagram, it's menopause counselor. And then on TikTok, it's ADHD menopause counselor. I do a lot more of like neurodivergent stuff on TikTok. I don't know why, but that's just what I've done. So yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Well,
so
thank you so much
you're welcome. Thank
for
you so
coming
much
on.
for having me.
I know that your advice helped me today, and so I hope that it will help our listeners as well and just normalize how you're feeling. We're all going through it,
We are.
and you're not alone, and we're not alone.
No, and I tell women this too. We are all messy right now, and it's okay. There is nobody I have met or talked to that has everything together. That image that you may think is out there, it is not real.
Nope.
Everybody is messy right now, and it's okay. We're doing the best we can.
Yep, we
Yeah.
are. I like that.
Yeah.
Thanks again. Really
Thank
appreciate it.
you.